Welcome back to aRDists Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Sarah. I'm an artist and registered dietitian, and I like to come into my studio and make stuff. So in the last couple episodes, I've been talking about wanting to kind of discuss quote-unquote stupid questions that I've been asked, or things that I've heard on like the internet of people asking questions about how the body works and things like that. And so I kind of wanted to jump into the example that I've been thinking about for a while, just to test this out and see how I am with kind of explaining things on the fly. So basically, I was watching the Basement Yard podcast with Frankie and Joey, and they were talking about the bloodstream and how blood flows through the body. And I'm having trouble finding the specific clip that I am thinking about. So in a more recent episode, I think Joey posed the question of like, are veins the bloodstream or something along those lines?
I have a stupid question.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Here we are. Welcome back. Patreon, what's up?
Is the veins bloodstream? Like, is that the bloodstream?
The veins are the highway and the heart is the city.
Who's talking about that,
Yeah.
Frankie?
Yeah.
I just said something and you said something not
Dumber.
even related
Yeah,
to
way
it.
worse.
No, but like the bloodstream.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about the bloodstream.
Everyone always talks about big bloodstream.
It's a bloodstream.
Big bloodstream.
But is that veins? Like, is that my bloodstream?
Yeah, you're the idiot here. I knew I was smarter than you. I fucking knew it.
But there was an older episode where I don't remember who brought it up, but it was kind of like where blood flows and what happens when it gets to the end of like the vein. You know, does it just turn? I think the way Frankie said, the way Frankie described it is like it gets to the end and then I think it just goes back on itself, you know, like it's a 2-lane highway. And I thought that was an interesting way to kind of logic your way through it. Like, okay, it gets to the end of the veins and then it turns back around. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the circulatory system and the cardiovascular system, how all of that kind of connects together. So and how blood flows through the bloodstream. So I guess I should start with illustrating the heart. Okay, so I'm sketching out the heart here. So we've got the right atrium over here, and it's got a little wall, and it's got its little valve here, and we've got the wall of the heart that's got muscle in it. And down here is the right ventricle. Over here is the left ventricle with its valves. And again, this is not to scale or necessarily perfectly accurate. Very rough sketch here, but we'll get the idea. So we've got some various arteries and veins, which we'll talk about those in a sec. Okay, so first of all, the difference between arteries and veins. So arteries are going away. So just think of like the A in arteries away. So arteries, and thinking of the heart as like the hub. So arteries go away from the heart, veins go to the heart. So as far as so the reference point that I like to use first is that this one that kind of like wise off in different directions. It's going out this way to the left and right lungs. So this is oxygen depleted blood. So it's coming in from the upper part of the body, the lower part of the body, and it's coming in here into the right atrium, coming down. You know, this valve opens, the blood gets squeezed into here, and then pumped up and goes to the lungs to go get oxygen and deposit CO2. And then on this side, we've got our oxygen-rich blood coming into the left atrium and then going out again through the left ventricle, through the aorta. And so we've got it going up and we've got it coming down. And so that's the first thing, is kind of like arteries. You have both arteries and veins, and that's the main difference, is that arteries are going away from the heart and veins are going towards the heart. So it's not that arteries are oxygen, like, you know how like the idea that your blood without oxygen is blue, which is, you know, a myth. It's not how that works. So like, for example, the aorta is an artery, and I forget what this is called. Forgive me. I don't know all of the things. What are they all called? Pulmonary trunk. Okay, so the pulmonary arteries. Stupid. I should have known that. Okay, so we have the pulmonary arteries and the aorta. So those are two arteries. They're going away from the heart. But the pulmonary arteries are going to the lungs, and they are going to collect oxygen. So right now, this blood leaving the heart is oxygen low. And then the aorta is oxygen-rich blood because it's going through the cycle, coming back in. And so the oxygen-rich blood is heading out of the heart, arteries away. And then we've got the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. First point, I know this is a little chaotic to look at, but the main point is that arteries go away, veins go toward. And so like some of the differences between like arteries and veins is like arteries are much thicker walled, so because they're like pumping blood away from the heart, they need to be like thicker walled and elastic, so that way they can expand as blood is pumped from the heart. And then with veins, it's coming back to the heart, so like it's further away from that initial pump, so their walls are much thinner. So even though this vein is going towards the heart, it is not as thick walled as the arteries that are attached to the heart, simply because like this is being pumped out, whereas this kind of being pulled in. And so if we're thinking of like, okay, this is the central hub, this is where this is the end of the line and the start of the line, so things are going out and things are coming in, but what happens at the end of the line? So like I said, there's arteries and veins, and then there's also capillaries. So capillaries are kind of like the end of the road, and I realize I have this illustration open here. Maybe I'll switch to something else that doesn't have a weenus. What else we got here? Okay, so I have my capillary picture here. So there's different types of capillaries, but essentially these are like the thinnest. They're kind of end of the line. And the other thing, so when Frankie mentioned when it gets to the end of the line, it doubles back on itself like a 2-lane highway. We do have some like built-in mechanisms within our veins. So we have like these little, what do you call them? Valves. So we have these valves, so that way when blood is flowing through, it can't go back. So these will close up, so that way blood can't flow back the other way. It keeps it going this direction. So when it gets down to like capillaries, they are the thinnest vessels that we have. So when we're talking about blood vessels, we're talking about the arteries, the veins, the capillaries. They're all kind of under the umbrella of blood vessels. And so the arteries the capillaries at the very end, there's different types of capillaries. So there's ones that have little pores on them that allow things to kind of come out. And depending on the size of the pore or how they're built, depending on where they are, they let out certain things and don't let out others. So like they'll let out, minerals and vitamins or, amino acids for, tissues in that area. And then there are like capillary beds. So there's like a network of capillaries. I'm doing a terrible job of illustrating this, but so capillary beds to allow things to come out. And so blood flows, it deposits the things that it needs to deposit, and it keeps going on that road. But once it passes kind of that threshold of the capillaries and starts going back to the heart, that's when it becomes veins and not arteries. So, and that's part of like the circulatory system. So there is no end of the road necessarily. It's, blood is constantly flowing in this system. So that was my really rough explanation of how that works, and just hammering home the point that blood doesn't backtrack. It continues flowing. If you have any other interest in exploring this topic further, I'm sure there are much better illustrated and demonstrated versions of this, but that was just my kind of rough and dirty explanation of how the blood flows through the body. The end. Let me know if you enjoyed this, and maybe I'll do more episodes similar to this where I try to sketch and explain how something works in the body. And so the guys at the basement yard, I know you didn't ask for an explanation, but there it is anyway. I hope it was helpful, and if not, I don't care. So anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, and in the meantime, go draw something. All right, bye.